Adam Drummond here from WaggaWagga.tv, and I'm a little bit chuffed because I've got someone joining me who played my boss in the recent film Backyard Ashes. I'm joined by actor extraordinaire Felix Williamson. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Cheers. How relaxed is this?
Oh, man, this is the best interview I've ever done.
We're only just starting. So, mate, I guess I want to start with your background because you were really going to be in the limelight one way or another. You grew up in a very famous family. Your father's one of the best-known playwrights in Australia, David Williamson. Tell us about living in that household.
Well, both my parents were writers, and then they both became... one was a journalist, and David obviously was writing screenplays and writing plays. So you go to sleep hearing the typewriters. Like, it's not like the word processor these days. It was the electric typewriter. And my room was in the middle, so you hear the from both sides of the room.
So you're just dreaming with this sound in the background.
Yeah, I mean, but there was no guarantee of me being any good as an actor because my dad is a terrible actor.
Yeah, like, he started out doing a little bit of acting, and he acted in his own plays, didn't he?
Yeah, but he used to laugh on stage at his own jokes that he'd written.
Right.
So in the Removalists, you know, so I was in the Removalists, and my mother was called in to play Kate in the last 2 weeks of rehearsal because the other woman got sick. So it was by chance that they met, and they were both in relationships, and then those relationships dissolved, and they got married a year or two later.
Wow.
But yeah, he was just a terrible actor. You got notes from the director going, you can't laugh at your own joke on stage because it ruins it for the audience. It breaks the fourth wall.
This is a great insight because having gone to uni doing acting, I mean, you grow up on David Williamson plays, so to hear this background angle, you know, it's quite extraordinary because you don't see that in Wikipedia, do you?
You don't? Well, no, I remember walking past his door when I was about 14, 15 and hear him going, "That's right, John, blah, 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 blah," and just like terrible. It's weird because he has such a good rhythm for writing. Like, his rhythm is brilliant and his structure is amazing, but he's just a shocking actor. It's just one of God's jokes.
It's weird that you can write for a character, but you can't be a character. That's right. We're not going to delve into that today. Of course, it's too deep. We'll be here all day. But and of course, I would have imagined it to be fairly glamorous. You would have had a lot of celebrities coming and going at the house, and you know, parties. Was it like Don's parties and things?
It was
like
a lot of parties. My parents would go out a lot. They would go out to a lot of openings and stuff, and I remember getting dragged along to Shakespeare when you're about 7. You just go, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
You know, so that was a bit odd. But yeah, it was kind of normal that the people that you knew would be on. It was more on stage. It wasn't on TV. It was more on. So it was sort of glamorous. I remember Mark Lee came to our house after they were shooting Gallipoli, and he was in our kitchen, and we're like, wow, you know.
Because David was he was a co-screenwriter of.
No, he was the writer.
He was the writer of Gallipoli.
Yeah. He was the guy, but. It was more lots of theatrical types like going, come on, we'll go backstage and see the actors, you know, and there's semi-naked people smoking, hello, little boy, you know, like, don't want them to see this, you know.
And then you've gotten into theatre yourself and eventually into TV. I think your first role was, if my research is correct, a Country Practice when you were fairly young.
Country Practice had a scene with Bob and Cookie.
Wow.
It was an underage drinking episode. I was 14, but I had a beard because I'm like the hairiest man on earth.
You were hairy back then as well.
Yeah, I was always hairy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I had to come into the pub and go, oh, g'day, can I have a slab of beer? And Cookies and like, oh, listen, mate, you know, I don't know what it was. It was mental. All I remember is I had an luminous yellow T-shirt on that said Hawaii, you know, in that kind of spangly writing. Yeah, that's about all that happened.
I was so disappointed with Frank Gilroy. He came to Wagga once to sign autographs at Mitre 10.
Yeah.
And my old man, we came from Moolameen at the time, and I was a budding young actor and wanted to meet Frank. And when I got there, he had the worst hangover of all time. He just went, there you go, kid. I think my dad told him off. What was the moment where you went, you know what, I want to act for the rest of my life? What was the thing that triggered it?
I think the thing that triggered it was getting like 141 out of 500 in my HSC, and that was probably a good... No.
Oh, so it was like me. It was either acting or real estate.
It was either acting or joining the army. I know it was... No, also, my dad came to see a production of a play, of one of his plays that I got into at school, and he was like, oh, I think you can be an actor. Like, your mum always goes, yeah, off you go, you know, whatever. But when my dad said that, you went, oh, okay, and I was about 16 or whatever, and I was like, okay. But it's middle child, you know, the middle child going, I'm here, look, you can see me, look. You know, so it's like, it's kind of it was sort of something I was going to do.
And then it's in the veins, isn't it? Once it's in there, it's in there forever.
Yeah. Well, it's, telling jokes to not get punched by someone really big. Or, you got to be able to run. So I'm a really good runner, and then just tell a lot of jokes.
Yep. Okay, you're a survivalist.
Yeah.
So now,
I
have to.
I saw the blink of recognition.
Yeah, I do exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I've seen the toilets. So now you've got an extensive film and television career. You've worked on big things. Probably the biggest, most recently, was Baz Luhrmann's The Great Gatsby. That's probably the biggest production you've worked on.
Yeah.
And then you've been, straight off that, you came to Wagga and you worked with an unknown writer, director and producer.
Yeah.
What was the polar extreme opposite situation like to work with?
Well, my trailer was Mark's parents' living room, so
there was no trailer.
There's no trailer.
There's plenty of trailer trash.
No, it was kind of in a way it's better because you're all subdivided in a way, and you don't really know what's going on. It's all in Baz's head.
Yep.
And that's fine, but and the scale of it and the scope of it's amazing. They measure you up, and they go, right, we've got to get your costume ready. And I was like, I'm going to go get some shoes. And they go, no, we're having them made in New York by Brooks Brothers.
Wow.
And they come back and it looks like Clark's shoes. I'm like, no one's going to be able to. But
they're Academy Award-winning sort of costumes, aren't they?
Yeah. They're Catherine Martin, so she said, so they make all your costumes and everything. And originally, this is the funniest thing about it is because there's so many wheels in the machine, they rang me and they said, oh, you got the part and we're going to drive the script up to you. And I'm like, I live 45 k's from Sydney. Like, why, just email it to me. They go, no. Got to keep it top. Someone could, hack into your email. Okay. And so they drove it up, and I flicked through the thing, and I had one line. And I was like, well, why don't you just send me the line? Why don't you tell me the line on the phone?
Over the phone, exactly.
Yeah. And I got to rehearsal, and then we had a reading around the table, and then they go, okay, well, your first French dialect lesson. And I'm like, whoa, because I'm playing a French character, and I'm like, but I've got one. I don't need I got one line. It was like Le Dîner Sévillon, and they're like, oh no. You're working for Baz, you're going to have lots of lines, but we don't know what they are yet. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that's kind of like working with Mark as well. I only started with one line.
No. But on the massive scale, because they go, we need you for 10 days on Gatsby, and I was there on and off for 5.5 months.
Wow.
So you go...
That's a different experience.
Yeah, so you're in the middle of a scene and he goes, what would you say here?
Yeah.
And you go, oh, le fraîchissement de Séville. Like the refreshing drinks have arrived.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, that's good. And then he might just cut it out or leave it in.
So, but you're really known for playing characters that have got a bit of a dark side sometimes, right? And yet you're probably best known for playing Paul Keating in the miniseries.
He's got a bit of a dark side.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, is this speaking volumes for you or for him that they got a guy that has such dark characters to play Paul Keating?
Yeah, I know. I think it's quite like him. I mean,
and a little bit to do with looks as well when he was younger.
Oh yeah, People are like, oh, you're like, you're a dead ringer. Yeah, I think. Well, he was kind of a self-made man, wasn't he? I mean, he left school at 15.
He was a band manager. Apparently.
Yeah, he was.
You would know. Why am I telling you?
Well, no, I did the research.
Did you meet him? Did you meet him?
No, I didn't. But the day I flew to Melbourne to start shooting, my dad he's got a place in Kent Street, like a little flat. They come in because they live up the coast, but then they come down to Sydney, every 3 or 4 weeks. And he was going down to do laps, and they have a really small 25-metre 2-lane pool, and some guy's swimming straight down the middle of it. Yep. And it's him. Right. And he gets out, and my dad's like, oh, because he sort of knows him vaguely, not really well. Yeah. And he's like, Paul, my son's playing in the miniseries. He's like, yeah, I know. And then, and that's all he said, and he got out of the pool, and he was like, oh, okay. So I don't know if he saw. I'm sure he'll hate it because it was,
No, there's no way he could.
I mean, it was so funny trying to research him though because there's 3 biographies on Bob Hawke, and I went to find the Paul Keating biography, but it was out of print.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no one wanted to read it.
Oh,
because he's such a hard man to. Yeah. There's only one. There's only one. What is it called? Recollections of a Bleeding Heart, which is a full-on documentary by one of his a biography by one of his speechwriters.
Oh, okay.
And but yeah, he's a pretty driven.
A lot of archive footage though to do your research from.
Oh yeah.
Get the rhythm and the
great sense of humour.
I actually replicated the thing that he's most famous for, particularly in England, was when he put his hand on
the Queen's bum or something? Or was it?
no, just on the small of her back.
Okay.
And I replicated the other night with your wife, who's also a Liz.
Well, yeah.
As I was interviewing her, I felt like...
Did you get that writ yet? No.
No.
Okay.
I hope it's not coming.
Pending.
But and let's talk about your family as well, because you were away from the family for 4 to 6 weeks while we were shooting Backyard Ashes. And Liz, your wife, who's got the biggest grin on earth, she walks in and she just lights up the room.
That's a lot of dental work.
How do you balance being an actor? You're also an acting teacher.
Yeah. Sometimes,
And yet you're a father and a husband as well. How do you balance everything?
It's hard. I mean, lots of people have jobs like this. Friends of mine who work in banking or whatever it is, and they go away to like India for 6 weeks or whatever. And I'm kind of lucky because, like, I might come to Wagga for 4 weeks. I mean, I was trying to do some parenting while I was here.
Oh, right.
I remember, and it was FaceTime parenting, like on your phone.
Yeah.
And my daughter had been driving my wife crazy, the younger one, because she's exactly the same.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And I'm like, so Ruby, listen, you're making your mum sad. And she's like, no. And I'm like, well, you got to stop doing it and everything. And then she realizes, she's like, I don't have to listen to any of this, and just went.
See you, Dad. Bye, Dad.
There goes the parenting. No, it can be difficult, when you're away for 4 weeks. But then I might be home and I might not have done anything on for a week. Like, I finished, because I'm writing this series, and I finished doing a sort of a block of 2.5 months of that, and then...
You're writing it yourself?
Yeah, I got a series in development for, I got like a comedy series for SBS.
I was going to ask you if you had any aspirations to be in writing and directing, so...
sorry to answer your first question, but it's that thing of, you can come home and not many people go, I've got a week where I can just hang out with my kids, or I can walk them to school, I can go to reading with them at school and do sport with them at school and take them to, they go and do ballet, my daughters, and
it's a lifestyle thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
you can get to have both. But it is bad, like every single holiday, if you want to get a job, you just book a holiday to Fiji or something, and it's like, I flew home early from my honeymoon, 2 days early, to go and work on a film, and everyone on the island's like, did something bad happen?
No, something really good.
Really good happened. No, it was really bad. It was Nick Giannopoulos' film. It was bad.
Oh, okay. All right.
We thought it might be good, but it was bad.
Yeah, so let's get back on your writing, and have you got any aspirations to direct as well?
The only thing I've directed is a night at graduation film.
Yep.
Because I've been a teacher for 20 years, and that's basically what teaching is going less, more. Contractually, if this series goes ahead, I'm allowed to direct 1 or 2 of them. They're going to let me, apparently.
Yeah.
Writing, I've been a writer on and off for 10 years, but this is the first time someone's paying me for it, and this is the first time I've done a project where I think it could go. I think it's funny.
Yeah.
And actually worth doing. Looks like I'm burping from drinking too much beer.
That's how relaxed we are during the interviews.
Obviously, if I've spent 10 years developing different things, but this one's kind of ready, and I think you've got to this, because the industry's so little.
And are you working on this project? Have you got people in mind that you've worked with in the past that are part of the project?
Yeah, I wrote for them. I wrote for Dan Wiley and Susie Porter and Bojana Novakovic. I don't know if you know her. She's in a lot of good stuff. And and just ringing all your friends in.
Yeah. Which is what Grentel did with Backyard Ashes.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the people that appear in it, and also were behind the scenes, behind the camera. They were mates.
Oh yeah, that's the best way to write it too. And my dad does the same thing now. Like he will write a play or whatever, and he'll go, "This is for Robin Nevin to play with." Da, 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 da. Like he'll write for them, or Max Cullen, or he'll, in hoping he'll get them.
Yeah. Well, Max Cullen, he could play anything.
He could play, yeah. Or now he was in Gatsby, and he said, I was in Australia and I was playing Old Drunk. So on my trailer it just said Old Drunk on the door. And I think in this one he was playing American Old Drunk.
Yeah. Well, at least he got a trailer.
You got to, everyone gets Baz. Everyone gets a trailer. Everyone gets a driver. Yeah. They rang me up and they said your car will be here at 8 o'clock to pick you up, and I'm like, because I didn't have big parts, I'm like, in my contract it's not in there. But I'm talking to Liz, my wife, going, should I? She's like, don't say anything. No. So they drive an hour and a half, pick me up, and then drive me. But he would shoot he'd shoot 20 hours a day, 23 hours a day.
Take note, Grentel. Yeah. Take note.
Take note. Big. But we could walk to set, man.
Yeah, that's true.
That
It was next
I
door,
used to
really,
walk,
wasn't it?
I remember walking every day. It was great. It was what a great.
Apart from the factory, all the locations were like within a block radius.
Yeah.
The cricket nets,
The cricket nets.
the pub, the backyard, and then the factory.
That's
really.
the best thing about it, though. That was it was all that hands-on, handmade thing.
Yeah, and you've done the premiere now. So I mean, you've been to quite a few premieres. What did you think of the one here in Wagga Wagga? That's our first, probably last ever feature film premiere.
Very cynical.
Most likely going to be the last
one ever. As soon as the meteor hits.
We had a documentary made in 1963, which has been a hit on YouTube. But this will be probably the first and last feature film that we premiere.
I don't know.
Would you
you
like
got
to see a film?
Mark.
We have got
here.
Mark. We got Coxie, and then working.
He's
on
got
things.
more ideas. I mean, he's got two other things, and
they
he's
love
got
their sport.
Interested backers, and oh, dude, they'll be making more films. No,
Would you like to see
huge.
a studio here in Wagga? Do you think it's possible to have a studio? I mean, you're halfway.
Do you need one though?
Well, probably not.
No,
you just use the showground.
Just use the show. I mean, but you don't ever. If you're going to shoot like Waterworld 2, you know, just
the Matrix or something.
Yeah, no, just go to New Zealand. It's cheap. Your dollar's worth more. You get a tax break.
Well, exactly. Now, final question, and this is something that I ask all the guests on Wagga.tv. It's going to be probably a little bit harder for you because you're not a local, but you're an adopted local.
Yeah, well, I grew up like in the bush. You know that, right?
No, I didn't know that.
In a bush. No, I grew
I
know. I grew up.
I had a line there.
It's a suburb now, I suppose. It's Hurstbridge in Melbourne, so it's about an hour and a half out of Melbourne.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it was the bush. It was a dirt track. It was on a dirt track. Our street and
said, well, this is probably a city compared to that, but you're an adopted local because you use all our, you're a creature of habit. I've noticed.
Yes.
So same coffee shop, same gym, probably same drinking holes.
Yeah.
This is the question that I ask. See how you go with it.
Okay.
If Wagga was to develop something, anything at all, that could come to fruition, what do you think? That it doesn't already have.
Yes.
What do you think it could be?
Skiing? No.
We're going to steep Williams Hill.
Develop a hill. No. What did it develop? No, it was weird though because I was jogging in the same place I always jog down by the river. And I was going past all the roundabouts just opposite Baylor Street. And I was like, look at all that sculpture on every roundabout. There's bird sculptures and stuff. I'm like, it's pretty nuts, man. It's pretty like you got a lot of
cultural
stuff, a lot of infrastructure.
Yep. A lot of roundabouts.
A lot of roundabouts. So there's less braking. So there's less smoke. There's less traffic jams.
What did you think of our traffic though? Like the drivers in Wagga.
There's no traffic, man. There's no. In comparison to the 405 freeway in LA, it's probably a little quicker, a little less waiting.
A little slower here in Wagga.
No, I think it's got a lot of stuff to offer. Now, what was I? Oh, I didn't find a Thai place to eat. That I was like, because you got so much fresh produce out here. Like,
we will take you to it. We've got two or three good Thai places. So we'll let you know.
I think that might be the test of a modern Australian city, a good Thai joint.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There you go.
Well, that wraps it up, mate. Thanks so much for coming on. It was great to work with you. He was my boss. In the film, go and see it and you'll know what I'm talking about.
I'm getting a raise.
Felix Williamson from Backyard Ashes, thanks so much for joining me. This is Adam Drummond on Wagga.tv. It's the online TV program all about people, places and property. See you next time.